Joining us now, MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, former Assistant Special Agent in Charge at the FBI, Michael Feinberg, Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution, Elaine Kamarck, and staff writer for The Atlantic, David Graham. Elaine, I want to start with you because the Church Committee, while focused in that one bite on the ability of the government to surveil and the intelligence gathering, the larger scope of it was to make sure that abuses of power stopped, that the DOJ wasn't abused, the CIA wasn't abused, the FBI wasn't abused. Do you think it is fair to look down the line 50 years later and say that Donald Trump is blowing past all of those protections that committee sought?
He absolutely is, or at least he's trying his best to do it. He is weaponizing the Justice Department, just as he accused the Biden administration of weaponizing the Justice Department. He acts as if the Justice Department is his own personal law firm. And not only is he attacking people and investigating people, he's withdrawing Secret Service protection. He's taking away people's Secret Service secret abilities to see secret documents. He's really doing a lot of that. But the thing I would say about this is what Donald Trump does. Back in 2016, before he became president, a reporter for USA Today just simply went through and counted all the lawsuits that Donald Trump and his business had been involved in. There were over 4,000 lawsuits in a period between 1973 and 2016. Now, you can say, oh, well, he ran a big business. There's always lawsuits. However, the 5 biggest real estate moguls in the country if you added up their lawsuits, they did not exceed Donald Trump's lawsuits. So this is what he does. When he's angry, when he's frustrated, when things aren't going his way, as they are not in Russia, his pal Putin is making fun of him, really, as they're not going his way in Israel, no matter what they say. Recently, when things are not going his way, when 37% of independents are disapproving of his conduct in office, and he needs those independents to, achieve his legislative victories in 2026. When all those things are happening, what he does is he lashes out, and he's using the Justice Department to lash out against his enemies, even though a lot of it doesn't make any sense, and probably most of these attempts are going to fail.
He's also famously said, and I'm going to paraphrase, that if somebody hits you, you hit them back 15 times harder. Michael, I'd also like to get your thoughts on the parallel between what we saw, the protections that we saw enacted after the Church Committee, and what we're seeing now and the way that they are being violated, manipulated, or tested.
So the Church Committee and some of the follow-on committees in the House, the Pike and Rockefeller commissions, enacted a lot of reforms specifically to rein in the sort of behaviors that Donald Trump's administration is now trying to execute on. The problem is, while some of those reforms were statutory, a lot of them took the form of just institutional norms and department policies. And the difficulty with that in terms of providing a long-lasting bulwark for our liberties is that norms have no force of law and policies can be overwritten by department heads on their own. So what you're essentially seeing is a whole host of DOJ and FBI safeguards that are rapidly eroding. Whether it is the limitations on contact between the White House and federal prosecutorial authorities, whether it is the way that the FBI is going to investigate political figures and elected officials. There are a whole bunch of things that quite rightly fenced people like me in throughout my entire career that are just being discarded like yesterday's trash, in a way that's really taking aim at the democratic norms which preserve our civil society.
So, Ken, I think that's a good point. Norms don't have any force of law, and we've seen norms broken multiple times. But the power of a norm, especially in a place like the Department of Justice or even the FBI, is that people believe in those norms. They believe in that cause. They believe in that separation. They believe in the dignity of their work. I wonder, when you're talking to individual prosecutors and agents at DOJ, at the FBI, if they feel like their own dignity, their own belief system is strong enough to withstand this, or do they feel like they need to leave? And if they do leave, are they worried about what they're going to allow happen?
Many of them feel like they have to leave because they see no way to preserve that dignity that you so eloquently described, Katie. And props to you for playing Frank Church on a Friday afternoon. That's great tape. All the public should see that stuff. As a person who covered the intelligence community for a long time. But the post-Watergate norm that we're really talking about here did not emanate from the Church Committee, but it was of that time and of that ethos. And it couldn't have been established in law, because the Justice Department is part of the executive branch. So you can't pass a law saying that the Justice Department is independent from the president on criminal law decisions. So they established that as a norm. And part of the way that norm was enforced is a sense of shame, a sense that if it was revealed that that norm was violated, it would be front page news in the New York Times, and it would lead cable news, and people would be embarrassed, and there would be a scandal, and Congress would investigate. And that's happened a few times over the years. That is all out the window now. There is no shame in the Trump administration. And in fact, they quite deliberately have shattered this norm. And Donald Trump has said many times that he is the chief law enforcement officer, and he believes that he can order the Justice Department to do whatever he wants. Interestingly, though, he's also along the way tried to suggest that he's removed from it and it's not up to him, because even he wants to preserve the notion that he is not pulling the strings here. Although when he put that post on Truth Social demanding that James Comey and others be prosecuted, that kind of lifted the veil a little bit. But they have shattered this norm, and many people who work in the Justice Department feel like they can no longer function there and are trying to leave. And same with the FBI. And they are worried about what comes next. They are worried about what they're leaving behind and who's doing those jobs now. But it's a very personal decision. They feel like there's no reason to stay, because if you stand up and try to fight against these things that are happening, you're going to have your head chopped off anyway. You'll be fired unceremoniously. And so, yes, almost everyone I talk to who has the ability to leave is trying to leave, Katie.
Let me play Todd Blanche, the number 2 at DOJ, after they asked him about Donald Trump's weekend tweet. This was last week. This was before the indictment, but after Donald Trump addressed Pam about these prosecutions that he said needed to happen.
I appreciate that truth came out last week. We are working all day, hard every day, the Attorney General and I, Director Patel, to do everything that this president ran on to keep America safe and to make America safer. And so when the president says that he's reading things or that he wants us to do investigations and he wants us to do our job, the Attorney General does not take that as pressure.
So Eric Seibert, who was the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, resigned reportedly because he didn't think that charges could be brought. He didn't want to bring these charges. So there is some shame working there, not wanting to do it. But in thinking about shame and why so few people in this administration seem to be governed by it, David, I wonder if it's partially because that governing mechanism used to be enforced by a bipartisan Congress who would say, hey, listen, no, we don't do it this way. And there would be investigations. There would be people in the Church Committee who were not just Democrats, but were Republicans as well.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I mean, you can see the lack of shame even right there in Todd Blanche's clip. I don't think anybody believes that what Trump posted on Truth Social wasn't intended as pressure on the Justice Department, and that includes Todd Blanche. There isn't really the same sort of defense of these things, these norms, on either side of the aisle, and the people who are in place have been selected for their lack of shame. I think about this as being an outgrowth of a lot of the Project 2025 ideas. There's a sense in there that, as Elaine said, the Justice Department should be able to work as the president's personal law firm. It's the same sort of theory of presidential power that gives us an FCC working to censor Donald Trump's opponents and so on and so forth. And another view of Project 2025 is that there are bureaucrats who respect these norms, who are, attuned to the sort of importance of shame in governance, and that those people have been sandbagging Donald Trump's agenda, and so they'd like them out. And if they have to fire them, if they have to, force them to resign, or if they resign in shame, any of those sort of does the trick for them, because it produces a Justice Department and an executive branch more broadly that is responsive to exactly what the president wants to do, whether or not that violates norms or good common sense.
Ken, one more question to you. On the James Comey response to this, we played it last hour. He says very patiently and calmly that he was expecting this and that he's not afraid and that he will stand a trial because he's innocent and that you should not be afraid either. I wonder how that landed, what people thought of it.
Well, sadly, many people are afraid, Katie, because James Comey is famous, he's eloquent, he's rich, and he can fight this fight. And the Trump administration has given him a megaphone that he didn't have before, and they may someday regret that. But there are a lot of people I talk to every day in law firms and former Justice Department officials and people in government who don't feel empowered to fight this fight. They are afraid. They're afraid of what can happen to them, and it's chilling speech. Someone today just texted me that they'd written their last op-ed criticizing the Trump administration because they are concerned about what might happen to them. I've had former Biden administration officials who have every incentive to want to criticize the Trump administration say, wait a second, I don't want to be on the record. My law firm or my foundation or whatever, that could cause problems for me. So this campaign of retribution is having a chilling effect. People are afraid. It's good that Comey said that. I hope the message resonates, and perhaps Comey will show the way that you can fight here. But again, he's a special case. He's rich, he's famous, he's eloquent, and he's ready to take this fight on.